What's up everyone, welcome back to another video, and today we're talking about Dehya and a little more copious takes, approaches, playstyles as you guys want to call it. As Dehya's been some time, people has been trying all sorts of ways to make her work, ranging from Immortal Dehya being unkillable, saying you can AFK and kill all bosses, all the way to Dehya mono pyro carry. Even the account I'm testing it on, the owner refuses to get C6 Bennett even though their Dehya is already C1, and yes, I'm very thankful for this person allowing me to borrow their account. But you know, it really begs the question that if you are dedicated to play Dehya, yet you also don't want to compromise Bennett C6, which is a 15% pyro bonus damage, along with infusing Dehya's normal attack with pyro, you're kind of like torn in between two places. You really should get Bennett C6 if you want to maximize Dehya's potential, but I digress. It doesn't really matter at the end of the day, because is it enough? Is this 15% pyro damage enough? Well, that's for you guys to decide, because in today's video, I'm going to be showcasing a C1 Dehya and seeing if C1 actually makes a difference. Does this scale her to maybe other C0 limited banner potential? Now, spoiler alert, I'm going to tell you guys, the results may surprise you or it may not surprise you, because I'm just going to give it to you guys out front. Dehya, even at C1, struggles to keep up with top limited banner performers. Now, that's likely to be expected, because even if you were to take a standard banner character like Keqing, scale her up to C1, are you really going to say Keqing can rival some of the better limited banner units such as Ayaka, such as Alhaitham? I don't think so. And let's just not talk about most of the Archons, because they just scale to a whole different power level. And when it comes to Genshin Impact and character performance and levels, even 4 stars nowadays are performing extremely well. I mean, look at Xiangling, look at Bennett, and look at Xingqiu, and then look at some of the newer ones like Kuki Shinobu. These are some top performers, and people actually rely on a lot of these characters as crutches to carry their teams and abyss clears. So let's not just try to box characters in as like, oh, 5 stars limited characters, standard banners, because it doesn't matter. Like a character such as Xiangling, which was given to us for free after clearing out, I believe, like what, Spiral Abyss or something like that. I don't even remember when, but she's so old, and yet she's still so widely used across multiple different team comps. And it really just shows that it's not because Hoyoverse cannot create a powerful characters, it's more so that Hoyoverse refuses to create one that's powerful and that players can lean on, and more so that they're focused on monetary things now, right? But when it comes to Dehya's C1 performance, it's definitely a noticeable spike. And if you guys have paid attention to Dehya's constellations, you would notice that all of her constellations eventually leaned her towards being a more on-field dedicated carry, even though her C0 kit and her whole character's existence is about mitigating some damage, taking the burden of the team and sharing it back onto her, and also being pretty much unkillable. But as you scale up her constellation, that side of her kit starts becoming more and more irrelevant. You can play her more as an on-field carry, her burst comes back faster, you can play her as a quick swap starting from C4 and C6, it just adds more crit rate, crit damage, all the good stuff. But she's still a standard banner character, right? Which leaves the question, if you want to be a Dehya main, and if you're dedicated to be a Dehya main, how are you going to even go about getting more copies of this character outside of her banner right now? Like, are you pretty much boned outside of the banner? I see people saying they've been playing the game since 1.0 and they still don't have Jean, they still don't have Mona, they still don't have Diluc, they still don't have the Keqing. And some people, believe it or not, being like, I still don't have a Chi-Chi. I know, right? Blows your mind sometimes how some people can be playing since 1.0, have been pulling on every other banner and still don't have Chi-Chi, but it's possible. However, I don't think it's extremely likely to say that you're not going to get them at all forever till the end of the game. Remember, Genshin is only in Sumeru right now, and we still have 3 more regions to come out, and by the time you reach the last region, there's a good chance that you're going to have at least a couple constellations on most of the standard banner character. Now, does that mean I'm telling you guys, if you really love Dehya and you want to play her as a main character and you see this C1 and be like, wow, I can finally scale some of her damage through her HP, which I'm currently building, to skip it? No, not necessarily, but I truly don't feel like it's worthwhile getting her C1. After testing this C1, as you guys may have seen on screen, she still only does like barely noticeable damage, right? Like, can you truly say that's damage? I honestly feel like Xiangling in this team being C6 is dealing just as much, if not more, and she's more prevalent, she's much less hassle, and you know, her burst is very easy to control, as well having really good uptime. While Dehya at C1, which I mean, C0 5 stars already scaled to C6 4 stars, and I gotta be honest with you, C0 Dehya doesn't hold a candle to Xiangling when it comes to pyro damage, and C1 certainly can level the playing field a little bit, but it still doesn't rival Xiangling after reviewing it. And even with C1, the problem with Dehya is that a lot of her damage comes from her burst skill. Her elemental skill actually doesn't contribute much damage to the overall kit. So if you can't rotate through her burst off cooldown, which is extremely difficult to do, essentially if you want to maximize damage output as well as energy regen, you can't really run energy regen sands. It doesn't really scale for her that well, so you're forced to run HP sands. So there's a lot more emphasis put on her artifact quality. And here's another problem for you guys, right? When you guys are playing these characters and then you try to farm for the most perfect artifacts, and you can spend like weeks if not months farming for it. I actually have a person in Discord talking to me saying, Walrus, you know, I felt really bad because I farmed deluxe artifacts for 3 months between the period, I believe, of they said 1 point something to like 2 point something up to Inazuma, and they said they spent so much time and resin farming for deluxe artifacts to the point where every other team that was not a part of Deluxe team fell extremely short when it comes to stat optimizations. So you got to be very careful when you're really going hard and crazy on one characters and farming the artifacts. Sure, they may be your waifu, sure, you might love this character, but you know, if your goal is to beat the game and stay on top of the game and stay consistent, powerful, you might want to distribute your resources a little more carefully, right? Dehya C1 conclusion is that it's not worth it. Like, the damage just isn't there. Now, sure, you guys might be saying, well, what if you get C6 Bennett, that extra 15% pyro damage? Yeah, it can work, but depending on how you build your team and what kind of downtime you have, everyone's burst has to go pretty much instantly they're back. Like, one rotation getting everyone's burst back, which is a tall task to ask if you want to maximize damage, which this team already will struggle a bit because of Dehya's presence. Yes, I am being harsh on her, but it's important to realize where the strength lies and where you need to put a lot of attention towards. This team will not work unless you get their burst right off cooldown, and even then it's very difficult to consistently output the type of damage that is demanded of 36 star clears in all Abyss iterations. I can see maybe certain Abyss can favor this type of playstyle and team compositions, but there will be other Abysses that could punish this heavily. Mono teams are not really known for their versatility, but more so their raw power, and unfortunately, Bennett being the current pyro buffer pales in comparison to some of the other prominent mono team buffers out there. So it's just so many things working against Dehya right now that she's a standard Bennett character, her scaling's all over the place, and to be quite frank with you, I just don't think at lower constellations she was designed to be an on-field carry. The best way to play Dehya right now is, as I expected, is to play her in Burning for Ganyu, and I do think eventually Melt is going to be associated with Burning and by extension Dendro, meaning that if you want to play proper Melt in the far future, likely you're gonna have to pull some sort of pyro burning character to facilitate that Melt meta. Now, Dehya is a interesting first piece to this puzzle, and I'm really curious as to what they're going to do with Baiju. But for those of you out there thinking, oh, maybe if I get Dehya to C1 or C2, then she's going to be able to carry my pyro team comms, sad to tell you, but likely before that even comes to fruition, you may receive an official pyro mono carry unit, which will completely smash Dehya out of the water, ultimately making her just degrade back into this place where you really don't know what to do with her. You play her in Burning Melt, which likely she'll have another better option out there, or you play her as a mono pyro carry, which likely you'll have a better option out there. Hell, even nowadays you have better options out there. So let's not talk about future 5-star dedicated mono pyro carry units that come out with their dedicated pyro supports, right? That's all I'm saying. Don't get bamboozled. There's a lot of copium going around. There's a lot of videos saying, oh, play Dehya like this, oh, she's god, oh, she's broken. You know, people, it's just for entertainment. Take it as that. Until next time, Rajota, stay safe. Peace, bye.